Hi, and welcome to the I T'd Myself podcast. My name is Matthew Miniman, and this is episode 33. What can duct tape teach us about maturity? Well, we've done it. Maturity. You guys have broken me. I have to be mature. No, fuck that. I'm not going to be mature. Fuck you guys. Duct tape. So, duct tape. It's a great tool. You probably know duct tape as the most sought-after resource in the wasteland. It is the tool that can do anything. If it moves and it needs to not move, use duct tape, etc., etc., etc. Duct tape is versatile, widely used tape to stick things together, typically sticking two things of either like material or unlike material together in a way that can keep them somewhat stable. What you should understand about duct tape is that it has an intended use. It actually does have one very specific use, and it's in the name. You use it to tape ducts together so that airflow does not escape your ducts. Duct tape is actually kind of useless in any environment where there's water or any environment where there's high dust concentration on top of the surface. Duct tape is useless in ensuring an airtight seal. Duct tape is actually kind of useless in ensuring that you have an insulated, that your cable is properly insulated. Duct tape, while it does have its uses, is kind of useless outside of those very specific use cases. People like to pretend that it's more useful than it actually is, and that's where we get all of the games that indicate that duct tape is a miracle tool. And all these movies where people are taping their arms with duct tape, which, by the way, if you do that, I hope you enjoy the rash. Anyway, duct tape's intended use really isn't meant for long term. You know, a lot of people will use duct tape when they don't have any better solution, and specifically rednecks and hillbillies will tend to use duct tape in excess to do things like fix cars, make boats. They will use duct tape for any purpose they possibly can, make pants, have a wallet. All of this is possible with duct tape, but really isn't within the intended use. It's really intended for break fix. You have a problem that you need to solve very quickly, and you need to implement a very temporary fix for this break. We can take this same kind of idea and apply it to IT. If you have a problem within IT and you need a quick solution so that you can get people back up and running, say, for instance, purely a hypothetical situation, that you have a finance department who has a billing application that is no longer working. And as the IT guy, it is your job to try to get them back to working so they can pay people. They can't run payroll without this application running. And so what you do is you try all of the things that you can possibly think of to resolve the situation, to get that finance person back up and running. You try, turning off the firewall. You try removing the antivirus. You try removing the updates or uninstalling the application and installing it fresh. And eventually, one of those things ends up working. And that's great. So then you go on with the rest of your job. You go to the next thing, which is typically somebody else's problem, and then you go and you fix that in the same way. That's a break fix, and you can tell kind of how mature an environment is by where they're at and how they treat their break fix and their solutions. And so what you look at when you see somebody using break fix a lot is you see somebody who doesn't have a mature environment. They are constantly moving from fire to fire to put it out. They're trying to fix only the problems that crop up, and they're doing nothing to improve their environment. This means that their environment is kind of in what I would call stage 1 IT. This is typically the IT environment at which most people grow up who grow up into an IT like mindset, this is typically how their family and friends treat them. They treat them as their personal break fix department because, it's I've got this problem. Hey, you know how to fix it as this teenager. Fix it for me. And there's no deeper attempt to resolve the underlying problem or improve the environment. And so it's not very mature in the sense that your IT department isn't making any steps forward. There's no improvement trying to be made. Now, as a regular business that doesn't focus on technology specifically, you may not care to have a mature IT department, but you should. And there are a lot of good reasons why. But to further underscore why maturity is important, you have to keep in mind that your business is more than just the goods and services you exchange to get paid. Your business is reputation. Your business is other people's information. Your business includes data that people want to get to. And so when you pretend that your business has nothing to do with technology, you're essentially ignoring an entire aspect of your business that can be hurt. It's kind of like driving your car without ever looking in the rearview mirror. You can do that, and you can successfully you can successfully travel from point A to point B, but you might miss a whole lot of shit that happens and potentially put other people at harm. So enough of the analogy. The reason why it's important for your business to have a mature IT department is so that you can develop your environment in a way that is professional. You can present your business more professionally across all facets, not just your single focus, your exchange of goods and services. That maturity helps make sure that you are always presenting yourself professionally in those terms. Now, if you don't care, you don't care. That's not my business. But to have a mature IT department means you are moving forward. You're always trying to improve things, and that you're doing more than just break fix. And where break fix becomes a problem is that typically, if you use break fix a lot, you're using duct tape everywhere, and you're never removing the duct tape to fix the permanent problem because you're always trying to travel from one problem to the next. The problem with a lot of break fix IT departments is that when they fix things, it causes other problems. And so they have to rip off the duct tape to put more duct tape back on. And eventually their environment just is nothing but duct tape and tears. And it can be really frustrating. And it's actually how a lot of burnout happens inside of IT, is because IT is always working on fixing the next break problem. That they're never working forward. They're never moving forward. And I've experienced this with my own career. My first real IT job I was a junior administrator, and we had a specific access point up on our sales floor that would constantly just wig out. And once or twice a day, it would just stop transmitting data. And I kept telling them, hey, you need to replace it. And their response was always, no, you just fix it. Like, that's a fucking thing. Like, I can just magically wave a wand and fix a broken piece of electronics. That's the kind of trail that you lead when you're only break fixing. Oh, just fix it. I can't, because it's broken now and you need to replace this. I can't fix this broken thing. It is permanently broken. There's no fixing it. It is burnt out. Like me and my soul. It cries at night just like I do. So when you are in this immature state, you are constantly having to jump from one fire to the next. you're never improving, and you're leaving yourself open to attack because your break fixes actually open you up to further attack. You are exposing yourself. Like I said at the beginning with the example of the payroll system, if you remove that firewall and you never remember to go back and fix that because you're just jumping to the next fire after you've fixed the one problem in front of you, then that firewall sits there off completely. And now you've exposed that person to everything inside of the internal network. And so you're just waiting. It's a ticking time bomb, waiting for an attacker to get some sort of foothold in the network so they can gain access to that machine. It's totally a thing. It happens. So how do you improve? Like it can be really tough. It can be a really tough question to answer. How do I improve my environment? How do I improve my maturity? And a lot of people will turn and say, well, you're going to tell me I have to spend money. And yes, I am going to tell you, you're going to have to spend money, but you get to look at it you should be looking at it through this lens: cost versus spend. And how much are you paying an IT person to sit there to jump from one fire to the next? And how much risk is that going to put you at? I guarantee you that if you just have a break fix IT department, you are completely unaware of all of the risks that are facing your environment. You are completely unaware of every aspect of your risk profile, of your security posture. You are missing all of that. Even if you have antivirus solutions, even if you have a risk management platform, even if you have a provider that can sell you those details, you don't have somebody who is live in the moment, focused on your environment, who knows exactly what your threat platform looks like, and also what your attack surface is. You don't have anybody focused to help you secure your environment. Aside from the other things, like you don't have somebody who's fixing the disabled users or making sure that you don't have legacy employees in your environment, and you have somebody who probably is sharing passwords and shit like that. You are constantly adding other costs to your environment, aside from the fact that your IT person is only getting paid to break fix. They are not doing the things to improve the environment. They're not improving your computers and how they work. And steadily your stuff will just grind down and grind down and grind down until you have to replace the computer instead of, the upkeep of that. And that's another cost. You're replacing equipment faster and faster because your IT person can't properly maintain the environment. And so what I mean when I say cost versus spend is that, yes, you are going to have to spend some money, but it will cost you less in the long run to spend that money. And what I mean by that is the first step in getting a true mature IT department is you need to make sure that your stuff is warranted properly, that you have support contracts on all of your business critical and system critical devices and systems and applications and platforms. You need to make sure you have the proper licensing and the proper support. That is sort of the first step. Giving your IT person somebody to call and say, hey, I have a problem, this is now your problem, will help them be able to focus on other things. In reference to the payroll software, my first IT job, our payroll was an Excel spreadsheet, and when Excel wasn't working appropriately through whatever macros this crazy finance person had, it would crash, and they wouldn't be able to do their job to get people paid. And so it was always a critical solution scenario whenever that Excel macro wouldn't run. And so as a break fix, that solution is kind of, that's the only solution I have to resolve that, to fix that problem long term. that company should be investing in an actual payroll software. Fuck, at least QuickBooks. Get them something, get that finance person something so that their job is actually more efficient, and also something that the IT person can go and find a solution for online rather than Excel and this bullshit Chinese potential malware macro that was made to calculate spreadsheets and hide tax information in spend data. I'm not bitter at all about this, by the way. just spend the money on actual payroll software, and your cost, your actual cost of labor will drop just from those two things. Now, the other way to improve is to make sure that you have an environment that allows your IT person to do more than just break fix. That means have some sort of organization for that IT person. There are plenty of free solutions out there that an IT person can implement that allows them to create a ticketing system. And that's kind of step one. Create a ticketing system so that your IT person can kind of put things in priority, and he's not constantly being interrupted while he's doing his job. Because I will tell you, as a break-fix IT person, the thing that I dreaded most was walking out into any environment with other people, because the first fucking thing that's going to happen when I walk out into any office that there's more than one person, I'm going to get stopped and I'm going to get asked to fix something else, which is why IT people are typically antisocial, because we don't want to be fucking asked another goddamn question while we're trying to do a job. It's kind of like Hal in Malcolm in the Middle. I am fixing the drawer. Can't you see? Anyways, so that's kind of how to mature it from a perspective of business owner, business leader. You as an IT person, if you're an IT person, you can mature your own environment by implementing free tools to help you make your job more efficient. A ticketing system, a free ticketing system to download and implement. You can host it on a desktop. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. It doesn't need to be on an actual server, but you can create a ticketing system that way. And so you can have your priorities. You can tell people, don't talk to me, send an email to this address, and it will create a ticket. You can set that up. And it's pretty easy, and there are guides everywhere. The other way to get out of the break fix sort of cycle is to make sure that you are improving your environment and doing everything in the right way, and holding yourself and your systems to a standard, to a base minimum, to best practices. When you do that, then you aren't doing the things like removing a firewall or uninstalling the antivirus or creating user accounts that have passwords that never expire. You're not doing any of these bad things that cause you to do more work in the long run. Best practices are best practices for a reason. Following those best practices will help make your environment more stable to where you're not break fixing nearly as much. Another thing that you can do is actually go out and spend the money on legitimate equipment. Don't use desktops where servers need to be implemented. Don't use switches where you need actual enterprise equipment. Don't use a printer, period. End of story. Don't use cheap equipment. Don't cheap out on equipment, because that will end up being the thing that needs to be replaced first, and it will break constantly. If you don't spend the money, your costs will be higher. Now, from a leadership perspective, if you're a bigger organization and you actually have a leadership group, you should already be at a point where you know all this information. You're actually practicing a good portion of it. Your leadership should have a focus on improving the environment overall, not just IT, but overall improving their environment. And as such, IT should be a benefactor in this. Computers should be purchased at a regular interval, and the cadence of meetings with IT should happen. And there should be these whole controls set up so that your leadership is aware of the environment and how things are going, and they should definitely be focused on more than just break fix. And they should not allow your IT person or you as an IT person to constantly be in break fix. They should be aware of what they need. And as an IT guy, you should ask, hey, I'm in break fix mode right now, and I cannot stop doing break fix until you do these things. You should know and understand and find those things within your environment that will help stop you doing break fix. And so there are a lot of other things that contribute to the break fix department, and that's things like documentation. If you don't have documentation that show users how to do some of the basic things, then they will naturally lead themselves into areas where they will break their stuff. Because if you allow them administrative control over a system and you don't give them proper guidance, they will break their stuff. And so documentation is another necessary aspect to your maturity, making sure that you at least have some documentation, even if it's not for the IT department, even if it's for the end users, that will help you move the needle towards a more mature environment. Other things like ensuring that you only practice break fix during office hours is kind of key. Making sure you set those times aside. Another thing that will help on top of that is making sure you have predefined maintenance windows where you're like, these are the days at which I install updates and at which I perform patches and where we will actually perform work that will take the network down. Having those maintenance windows will help mature your environment, because then you can do the necessary things that you aren't able to do when the system is running. Having those maintenance windows at all will help that. I have been in fully mature in other ways IT departments where we have documentation, we have a ticketing system, we have 10 people on staff in the IT department, but we don't have maintenance windows. And because we don't have any maintenance windows, we never get out of the break fix. It's because since there are no maintenance windows and shit never gets fully rebooted, shit never gets fully patched, we are always fighting the fire of, hey, this broke today and I need to fix it. And it's always a problem. So making sure you have maintenance windows will also help mature your IT department. So I know I've been calling you fuckers immature the entire episode. So I hope you enjoyed that. And I know you are. But what am I? That's all I got time for today. Have a great day.